Fill your thirst beside the river. Wash the journey from your hands. Feel the comfort flow inside you. Come this far, you understand. Fear's not allowed, where dreams can be lost or found.
Okay.
What show is this, number 36?
You're right. Welcome.
Hi, welcome to Healing Outside the Box. This is our 36th show, right?
Yes,
And I'm Rosemary Lachance, and I'm a Reiki energy healer.
I'm Traci Crampton. I'm an energy practitioner.
Okay, we're Reiki practitioners, and we have made it our mission to introduce people to alternative forms of healing for the mind, body, and soul. In our practice and in our individual lives, we've come to understand that many of us share similar concerns regarding our health and well-being. There are many resources available, but it can be very long and confusing sorting out all the information and making the best decisions for ourselves and our loved ones. This show will provide ongoing information about alternative healing, spirituality, and animals, and all about animals. We have different guests on all the time on acupuncture, yoga, therapeutic massage, hypnosis, shamanism, and more. And we'll have valuable information for you. We also give you the opportunity to email your questions to us and have them answered on the show. This show is for all of you who are standing before the bridge and are curious or actively seeking other ways to feel healthy, balanced, and peaceful. Let me share with you a famous quote. If you keep doing what you are doing, you will keep getting what you have been getting. Okay, each week we'll be answering a different question from our viewers, and tonight's question is about the animals. Near and dear to my heart, because the show is about our animals. Mm-hmm. So the question was asked us, how does Reiki help the animals? Okay. Shall I start?
Absolutely.
Okay.
This is your niche.
Okay, our animals bring so much joy to our life. Their unconditional love is a model for how we should strive to live our own lives. So by offering them healing of Reiki, we can give something back to them for all they have given us. They are very open to energy healing. They are constantly in contact with the higher power, God, whatever you choose to call him, and with the heavens. They are nature beings who watch over them, and they're always in contact with them. So when we give Reiki, we both do Reiki for animals. And when you give them Reiki, we ask them if they would like it. We tell them to take as much as you want. And the animals respond.
Yeah, they respond
beautifully,
amazingly. Like, I think that a lot of times people are worried that, their animals might say, oh, this is a stranger, and react in the way that they would with a stranger. And sometimes they do initially, but I think that they have, instinctually, they know that, we're there to be helpful to them. And something about the energy, when we work with energy healing, it just immediately has a calming effect.
Yeah, they lay down.
I've seen very timid or anxious pets just calm down very quickly.
Yes, definitely. I remember one that I had given Reiki on who didn't want any part of coming near me, and the owner tried to make her, and I said, no, don't make her, leave her be. So she finally, after a long time, she came over by the door, and she was sitting by the door. So I inched my way over there and slowly sat and talked to her, put my hand out, and then I started to pet her, and she started to purr. And then I did Reiki on her, and she allowed it, and it was wonderful. Sometimes they'll sit across the room. Sometimes they'll come over to you. Sometimes they'll even come into your lap. Sometimes they'll lick your hands to let you know that they're thanking you after it's over. There's so much. And what Reiki can do is it relieves different things for the animals, and I'll read you a few. Reiki is good for physical conditions like before. Sometimes you want to give it to your animal before he goes into surgery. If the veterinarian will allow it, you can do it right there at the veterinary hospital. And after surgery also is a good thing. And if not, when it comes home. And then chronic conditions like heart problems and cancer and other diseases and other illnesses. And then there's emotional issues, like when they have aggressive behavior, or they're timid and shy, or they have fears, or they lost a mate. That's a sad thing. When you have two or more cats and one of them passes on, or dog, and terrible. If they bite, even biting, and if they're depressed. And even wetting outside the litter box, which cats will do sometime, and so much more. So much more that it does.
And even I've had people ask me to work on their pets when they know their pet is passing, or they have to put their pet to sleep, for humane reasons, and they want to make that transition a little easier on their pet. I've come for that too.
It's true. I recently lost an animal that I was helping. For about 3 weeks, I had it with me near the end of its life because I have a quiet house, and my daughter asked me if I would take her. And I was there at the end when she passed, and I gave her Reiki at the end, and I gave 3 symbols to her, committed her spirit, to heaven, and gave her the 3 symbols. And then I gave her the 3rd. She took her last breath and she passed. And so that
Peaceful
helps
way
very
to go.
much.
I know, even
for that.
People can benefit from that. If you know somebody who I know a lot of people do Reiki through the hospice, and if you have elderly or people who who are passing away, Reiki can be very helpful to help them make that transition.
So just to let you know, animals love it from our experience. They all really love it. They enjoy it. And if an animal should not at that particular time, we'll always try again and come back another time.
And we make it easy for you because, you will do it in your household.
Yes.
It's not like you need to bring your pet to our office.
We will. We'll come to your house.
We go there.
Okay. Well, thank you. And now, tonight's guest.
Along our lines with the animals. And our subject tonight is the plight of animals. And with us we have Robert Bombace. He's an animal control officer with the New Haven Animal Shelter. Robert is a lifelong resident of Hamden. His love for animals began at a very young age. His mother, Marion, was no doubt an influence in this due to her own deep love and compassion for animals. After successful careers in real estate and insurance, Bob realized that his strong compassion for animals was his calling in life, and he decided to pursue a life of animal rescue and advocate work. He has trained police and personal protection dogs. As a video producer, he has produced programs on animal abuse, adopting racing greyhounds, and wild horses. Bob has also produced a wide range of videos regarding dog breeds and training. For the last 8 years, he's been employed by the City of New Haven Police Department as an animal care and control officer. I want to welcome you to our show. Thank you for coming.
Bob.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. And we'd like to mention that I want to tell the audience that you're here as a personal person who is interested in animals, not as a representative of New Haven Animal Shelter.
Right.
But you will tell us about our experiences that were there. And also that this is part 1 in a series of many more shows to come on animals. Okay.
Right. So we want, maybe from your personal experience, why you feel, that we're maybe failing or not serving our animals well, and
to many in our society, an animal has become a throwaway commodity.
Yeah.
Okay, and that certainly doesn't apply to all people, but it applies to some people. Let's get a cat. Let's get a dog. Let's
Make
get
the
a
kids
gift for
happy,
somebody.
and they're
Make
not
the
quite
kids
ready,
happy. And obviously, anybody who's had pets knows that they require a lot of care and attention, and it's never-ending care and attention till the day they're born, till the day they die. And that's the proper way to do it. And there's also expenses involved, there's training involved, and there's just a tremendous amount of care involved. And some people will get an animal and not realize this. And here's where the problems become.
They go into it thinking it's this
Yeah.
little commitment, and it
Yes,
ends up being bigger.
and these are obviously where a large percentage of the animals that end up in shelters will end up sometimes to a degree of abusive situations, depending on the situation they're brought into to begin with. So that's a concern. In animals, mainly dogs, not so much cats, but dogs are used for a functional person, whether that be hunting, protection work, let's breed some puppies for sale. And again, these are all areas that are a recipe for disaster, which many cities in metropolitan areas will see. Somebody will get a dog, hoping to make money breeding it, and there's really no money to be made breeding dogs per se if you're going to do it correctly. A lot of times out there you'll see people just getting a dog with a dog to create puppies for sale, saying, well, if I get 10 dogs and I get $200 or $300 per dog, I've made myself some money, and it really doesn't work out that way at all. And once people discover it doesn't work out that way at all, then the female dog will maybe be left at the shelters or given to somebody else who will think the same idea that they're going to make money with the dogs. And these are problems that you will see in a city situation. You'll see them in a suburban situation, and maybe even a farming situation where hunting dogs are more of a commodity than, we'll say, protection dogs, which might be applied more to a city situation or a metropolitan city situation.
That's sad.
How bad has it gotten? I mean, what are our shelters like these days?
It's always bad, and depending on your community, some communities are very animal friendly. They're going to support their shelters more. Others are not so friendly. It depends on really your town or your city, how much they're going to commit. And a lot has to do with your volunteer groups that are connected with the different towns or cities involved. The New Haven Animal Shelter has a very strong volunteer group that supports us financially, and does a lot of work for the dogs and gives us a lot of assistance. So that it makes a huge difference. You could take certain towns like Hamden, for example, that should have an animal shelter that doesn't have an animal shelter.
Yeah, they don't.
And they should have had one years ago. And you've got some people in Hamden working very hard for it, but you've got a political system that doesn't necessarily want to. That's an important factor in the town. So
that's a shame.
And there's really no excuse for it, but that's the way it is.
And North Haven has a very small
And
one.
North Haven has a small shelter, which they share with Hamden, which is, which puts pressure on North Haven, obviously. So it's not an ideal situation. One of these days, hopefully, it'll be rectified. But
I hope so. You hear that, folks? Maybe you can talk to your people in the in town of Hamden and see what you can get done for the animals. Okay, and all get involved. Now I know with the cats, people like to let their cats run outside. So many people let them run outside. They think the cat wants to be outside. Well, yeah, the cat wants to be outside, but if you raise it inside, it doesn't have to be outside, right?
True.
And there's so many dangers out there.
Yes.
And they don't spade or neuter their animals.
All problems.
Right, and then they make more kitties, and then there's more kitties to go to the shelters. I remember coming to your shelter, and you had tons and tons of kitties, especially in the mating season.
It doesn't take much for a male and a female cat to get together to produce kittens, and if these kittens are not born inside, so to speak, inside somebody's house, if they become feral kittens, then you have a situation that's just going to keep on going. And you see this in many neighborhoods. And it's a sad situation because these cats are just basically, they become now wild animals. They're going to produce more and more, and it's sad because then you get people who want to take care of them and feed them, and they won't feed them.
They
will outside. I know some people.
And now they're multiplying.
No, they're continuing to multiply. It's and through nature's natural selection process, only the strong survive out there too. By the way, so you've kind of produced a very durable cat if it's a feral situation for many generations, and so people need to obviously spay and neuter their cat. They need to be responsible. Does it happen all the time? Absolutely not. But it's a sad situation.
I know. They don't seem to have as much regard for cats as they do dogs. I
because
realize
I think just because the nature of the cat is more independent than the dog.
They can survive.
And also, you never really heard of a band of feral cats maybe going after somebody or going after livestock or whatever, or causing problems where dogs would possibly do that.
They always associate with our needs.
Yeah.
instead of the cat's needs.
Right.
You know, and that's what makes me angry. You think about the cat, how the cat would feel.
Right.
It was something you had said to me about what you told somebody once, put yourself in their place. If
Put
you, what was
yourself,
that?
well,
You
you
said,
put your, you know, on some situations where I will tell people that, you know, if I find a situation where a dog or to a lesser degree a cat is living in a situation, I said, would you like to come back to Earth as that dog and be living in a situation like that? You don't have to answer the question for me, but think about it.
That's
and
right.
some people will think about it and some people won't. So
put yourself in their places. That's what they don't do. There are lots of wonderful, compassionate people out there, and I've met many of them, you know. And but there are other people who they just say, oh, it's just a cat. Oh, it's just a dog. Oh, it's just this. It's just that. They don't realize there are little brothers and sisters, too, on this planet. Spiritually, they really are. God created them like He created us. Everything, it has a soul.
Yeah.
That's another thing we'll get into one day about animal souls. But believe me, they have souls, and they do go to heaven, and that's a given. You can read about that in many, many books you can pick up in the stores. So, let's say, when somebody wants to adopt an animal from the shelter, and then there's the getting it in a store from the puppy mills in the stores, can you talk a little bit about all that?
Yeah, you know, obviously you're saving a life when you adopt from the shelter.
Right.
You're going to usually get a cat that's not a pedigree cat from a shelter normally, which is a healthier cat. And same thing with a dog for the most part.
It's a healthier
It's generally
cat,
a healthier
not to be
dog.
When it's not pedigree, it's healthier?
When the mongrels, the mutts, call them what you want, they're
healthy.
generally a healthier dog.
I've heard that, yeah.
Generally.
Why is that, do you?
Well, there's
do you
just,
know?
if we wanted to produce you 100
Make me
times
stronger,
over,
okay.
we would probably inherit some of your genetic defects. Nothing personal now. Same thing with me. Same thing with me. If I was to produce myself 100 times over, any problems I have would be that much
More amplified, right?
Yeah, you're
And
right.
same thing with the dog.
I never thought about that. That's a great way to look at it.
I have heard so many
That's why
stories
certain
about
breeds are more prone to certain problems or temperaments or whatever. But having said all that, we got away from the thing a little bit. But you know, you're saving a life, okay?
Yes.
And that, which is a nice thought, and it's so much less expensive to do it than getting a dog from a pet shop.
Yeah.
Okay. Pet shops, number one, get their dogs from puppy mills. The puppy mills are in the Midwest situation, and the northern mid-states. Pennsylvania has puppy mills, and basically they mass-produce dogs. Okay. The dogs are put in a kennel situation, and litters upon litters upon litters, year in and year out, are done with the female or any available male. And then the dogs are sold to a middleman who brings them to another person. So your dog that you pay, we'll say $1,500 for
you're
in the
paying
pet
top
shop.
dollar for them.
Okay, by the time it reaches the end user, which is the pet shop, may have been sold by the middleman for $200 or $300 possibly.
Wow.
Okay. And so it's a terrible way to buy a dog. You keep a system, a very cruel system in business. And there's been many people. A lot of people in Connecticut went to the legislature to try to get this stopped completely, but because they have a business going on with the pet shops, they pay taxes. It was a difficult thing to do. There was some restrictions put on the pet shops where they had to show where their dogs are coming from and so forth and so on. But people are unsuspecting because they walk in there, they see a cute little puppy.
Puppies and
We take
cages that need
Visa,
to
we
go
take
home.
MasterCard. The salesperson will tell you championship bloodlines, AKC registered, vet check, privately bred. It's all a bunch of BS. Doesn't mean anything. It's just you know, it's just sales hype basically. And to the unsuspecting buyer, a lot of whom get the dog, and then there's health problems, there's temperament problems with the dog, and they're not going to turn around. Oh, they give a guarantee, they say, but the people aren't going to take this back to the pet shop after having the dog for so long and say, "Give me my money back." They bond it with the dog, so they now have a problem. And that's not to say every dog coming out of a pet shop you're going to have a problem with. You won't. The sheer numbers they produce them, you're going to get a good dog. Okay, and a lot of these dogs that are from the pet shops do end up in the shelters too. By the way, it's just a very bad way to buy a dog, and you keep a very cruel system in business when you do make that type of purchase.
We use animals like a commodity.
And I don't think
That's
people
what we
are
do.
even aware. I mean,
a lot of people really aren't. because they go in there, and again,
happens?
they're snowed over by the salesman. It's an impulse buy sometimes.
Yes.
We take credit
Usually
cards.
they're just shopping,
Yeah,
getting their kids' shoes
so
that
Yeah,
day.
it's
and
easy when they take the
walking-
credit cards,
Yeah,
right?
It's
Walking the
just,
puppy
a,
shop.
it's just a terrible way to buy a dog. I've done some work, in Connecticut, and saw some of the situations that did occur with the pet shop things. Mostly dogs coming up from Missouri. It's just a bad way to buy a dog.
There's been a lot of talk about that lately. I think Oprah Winfrey had a show about puppy mills and how bad it is and what goes on
The
there.
conditions are horrendous. I mean, the dogs are kept in very tight, cramped quarters. Some of them are put on wires, so any type of feces falls down to the wire underneath, so it's more easy to clean. That's if they do get clean. There's lacking vet care. It's just a very, very bad situation. Channel 8 did a thing on this years ago where they visited a puppy mill, and it's just that's where a lot of these dogs come from. They can, by the time they're cute puppies, obviously to a certain degree, by the time they reach the pet shop, but it's no way for somebody. It's not a good way for a child to start out in life. It's certainly not a good way for a puppy to start out in life. He's going to lack medical care, proper socialization. Could be coming from sick parents. So it just kind of adds up that it's not a good way to get a dog.
I've been seeing on CNN that they've been rescuing a lot of
It always
dogs
happens
from the shelters.
constantly.
They showed the conditions and everything, and then people want the puppies, they don't want the older dogs, and the poor females who have to give birth constantly. It's
They're
just
used and abused until
just
the
like
day
the
they
farm
die.
animals.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. They
Yeah.
just treat them like that.
Yeah.
Oh boy, I don't know. People need to really be educated and really know what's going on.
Yeah.
Like we said, just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening.
Yeah.
And making money is a priority. And abusing the animals and using them as a commodity is what's been happening. And it's very sad and it's wrong. It's very, very wrong.
What do you think are some of the biggest mistakes people or families make when they're making a pet purchase or looking for a pet? And
Well, they've got to, as far as if they're going to, what type of, if they just want a dog in general or a cat in general.
or I've heard
just-
at Easter everybody's buying bunnies,
Oh,
but
yeah,
nobody
yeah,
knows how
yeah.
to take care of the
Yeah.
bunnies, and
Right.
then they get tired of the bunnies.
They've got to think about not how much this animal is going to fit in with in their lifestyle a month or 2 months from. They've got to think how the animal is going to fit in with their lifestyle a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line. So they've got to really think about if they want to make a commitment to this animal and how it's going to fit into their lifestyle. Again, not so much 2 months from now, but 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years from now.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. Exactly, I know. It's like having a child. It's really just like having a child, especially people who don't have children. But if you have a child, of course, the child bonds with the animals, and yeah, it's sad. But lately there's been a lot of, because of the economy, people abandoning them, right?
Yeah.
Cats and dogs. A lot more cats than dogs, but both, right?
Yeah, it's
How's it
certainly
been
a
there,
sign.
yeah?
It's certainly a sign of the times where, not with all people. Some people will really work extremely hard to keep their pets or to find the proper environment for them to go into. But some people who, aren't that warm towards
Passionate
animals,
towards the animals, yeah.
will basically put it out on the street, and certainly it makes it fills up the shelters more, and it's tougher on the animals. It's certainly just a bad situation all the way around. There's no doubt about that. Yeah.
I was at Animal Haven, and they had a cat there that the owners got divorced, and neither one of them wanted the cat, and so the cat ended up in a shelter.
Yeah. Well, that again. That goes back to you might want to go back to the day. Why did they get this cat? And sometimes people fight over their animals in a divorce, which I'd
Yeah,
almost
you all
rather
want
see.
them. Yeah, at least you know that
I
animal's
know.
got
Yeah.
love. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank God there's more awareness now than there's ever been for the animals. There is. There was a time when, it wasn't like that. but
We've definitely made progress,
Yeah.
and more progress needs to be made. And I don't think it's ever going to be a perfect world for people or for animals. So
No.
but as long as we're trying to make progress, then we're doing all right. We're heading in the right direction. Yeah.
That's good. So is there any stories you can tell us about life at the shelter?
It's a tremendous feeling to take an animal out of a bad situation, and then see it get into a good situation. And the other side of the coin is you can't save them all for whatever reasons. More so with dogs than cats. There may be health issues, there may be temperament issues, so you can't save them all, which is too bad. And it becomes to the fact where once an animal does have to be euthanized, it's a sad thing, but it's a reality, We hold on to animals for a very long period of
that was
time,
my next
far
question. How
longer
long?
than is required by law to do so. So we have a very good adoption rate, for the animals there, which is, for a city shelter, we do very well with the help of the volunteer groups and, support from the mayor's office and everything like that. So we do a good job in that respect.
I understand you've had some dogs there that were taken away from somebody that they were fighting, using them for fighting animals?
No,
Or tying, breeding. Was tying them out in the yard, something?
Mainly, we don't see as much fighting now as we did years back. We mainly see people trying to make a quick buck who don't know what they're doing, breeding and then they realize, as I talked about earlier, that I'm not going to make any money doing this, and then the animal is given to somebody else, or it's chained out in the backyard, and it has an accidental litter or a planned litter, and then once the animal totally becomes useless, then it ends up at the shelter usually. And you'll see the mothers in there that have had many litters of puppies, So it's a bad situation, and there's probably some answers to it that could be done, and that hopefully will be done in the future. But right now, it's a reality of life, and it's mainly it applies to mixed breeds, but it's mainly with the American Pit Bull Terrier type dogs that we see this problem. Which happen to be great dogs. Not the dog for everybody.
Tell us about them, because they've been getting a bad name.
Not the dog for everybody.
You hear pit bull right away.
Not the dog for everybody. They do run in different sizes and different weights. They're actually bred to be human friendly, not human aggressive. But if you have an abundance of them, and you're going to hear stories about a couple of bad stories, are going to color the stories for all the great ones in a negative light. And that's what that's what you see when you see these headline papers. Pit bull does this, pit bull does that. And then you'll have a situation where maybe a golden retriever even bit somebody that gets this much space, and the pit bull will grab the headlines all the time. So it's too bad.
What is it? Is there something more in that breed than other breeds that I've heard people say they had the dog for years and all of a sudden it turned on them. Spiritually, I know the answer, but physically, what is the answer?
I've heard some of these stories at a time, and I have to wonder what the people, what they did with the dog, how long they've had the dog. I have to wonder if some of the stories are exaggerated. I have no doubt that some of them are possible. Again, one thing about the American Pit Bull Terrier type breed is they can be tough with other dogs. It doesn't transfer to humans at all, though. It's not like it transfers to humans. You could jump in the middle, which unfortunately I've had to do many times, and break up two pits fighting. They will not turn on the human. They're bred not to, actually, if you take it back to their breeding. Because when these jerks fought the dogs, they would want to be able to break them up easily. They didn't want the dog turning on them. So if you take the breeding back to years and years ago, you'll see that that's carried on to a certain degree. So again, they're a human-friendly breed. Okay, some of them can be tough with other dogs, and some of them could be great with other dogs. It depends on the breeding, depends on the individual dog. They're bred to be human-friendly, short hair. They switch owners very well, very house-friendly. They're just a very congenial dog for the most part. Very good with kids. The problem is, again, if you get one that's bred a little poorly, it gets stuck out on the chain in the backyard or not socialized, then you've got a big, strong dog here that you could have trouble with. And these are where we see our problems.
Dogs,
we don't see the problems with the good dogs or the good people out there who have American Pit Bull Terrier type breeds. We see the bad stories about the negative things, people who do negative things with their dogs.
I was going to ask about the greyhounds.
Yeah, I would too. I just want one more thing I wanted to ask him. I had read that with all this dog fighting, that pit bulls will do anything to please their masters, and so that's why they use them for these different things.
If a dog is encouraged to do certain behaviors, obviously he's going to, keep doing
Really
those
trained to them,
behaviors.
yeah.
And there's a training process involved for the people who do this dog fighting. There's a very heavy training process. There's a very underground system involved, very organized system involved, which is tough to penetrate actually. And there's money involved, and it's just a very brutal business that
Really?
does go
It's
on.
still going on. It's hard
So
to
if
believe
someone
it's
were
still
to want
going on.
to adopt a pit bull, can you tell us like what they should look for? Is there anything special? Or
the family
you
has
tell?
to be involved. It depends if it's an individual, husband and wife, family, whatever. Everybody living in that household, for any dog, not just a pit type dog, any type of dog, they should go visit the shelter. They have to meet the dog. They have to feel comfortable with the dog. Everybody needs to feel comfortable with the dog, not just one person. When you get the dog home, everybody needs to feed the dog. Everybody needs to set certain boundaries down with the dog. And this is especially true in the first couple of weeks. You've got the intelligence of about a 2 or 3 year old. And, the dog really can't tell, well, this person loves me so much, this person loves me so much. Kind of like a 2 or 3 year old kid.
Yeah.
You give them the opportunity to get
Give
away
them
with
the
certain
candy.
negative
You're
behaviors.
suddenly on the good
And
side.
they will.
Yeah.
So you need to set the boundaries with any dog, and you need to do it right from the start when you bring it home before they start unpacking their bad luggage, which any dog could, any person could have bad luggage, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that needs to be done, and then training needs to be done, obviously, and proper vet care and daily walks and housebreaking, proper housebreaking, just all the normal things that somebody would do. They need to be educated in that respect as far as the proper way to take care of an animal.
How about picking an already grown dog from the shelter? No.
Yes, well, they need to, maybe see how the dog is on the leash with them. They need to feel comfortable with the dog is the key thing, though. Okay, if one of the people involved in the family is not comfortable with the dog, then
You shouldn't get it right now.
it's not a good situation to do that. Most shelter staffs will be able to determine to a certain degree the temperament of the dog, how it is with other dogs, how it is with people. Does it have food issues as far as biting stuff? Is it become protective in certain situations? And there's different temperament tests that can be done to determine a lot of this, these things. If it's a big dog, any breed, okay, you want to have somebody who's comfortable with bigger dogs and knows their way around bigger dogs. Most animals will, basically get along with their human masters, but if they have a really tough temperament, okay, where they're the alpha dog, then sometimes this is a recipe for a problem, where they maybe get in and look towards the man in the family as number one, and
They want to debunk him.
and maybe no, he's number one, and especially if he feeds him all the time and spends more time with them, and then maybe if the wife or girlfriend possibly or a child, the dog may try to take the second spot, and that's when there's a problem. And that's not to say that happens a lot, but with certain dogs, and certain background dogs where they've had, they're brought up reasonably tough, or that they have an alpha personality, that's a possibility to happen. Most people will get a dog, and the dog will work out fine from a shelter situation. The dog's adaptable, especially, again, if what I mentioned before, if the people take precautions to, they know what they're getting into, they properly housebreak the dog, feed it, take medical care, and just kind of not let the dog run all over the place, and, set some boundaries down. Then they really shouldn't have any trouble with most of the dogs coming out of most shelters.
How about with the cats? Is it the same thing, kind of? Or how does it work with cats?
Cats, you pretty much could tell their temperaments to a certain degree. I think,
they let it out for you.
A lot of the problems is we do get some shy cats. And the shy cats are going to have a little tougher time coming around, I think. The best thing to do with them is not to let them have the run of the house. Probably isolate them to one room where you could spend some time with them, litter box, feeding, and let them kind of get used to you, seeing you as a positive. Some cats, in that situation, if they have the whole house, the run of the house, so to speak, they'll run and hide. So you want to kind of isolate them to one area.
Yeah.
It's probably the best bet with a shy cat. And they always may be a shy cat. You have shy dogs too that will come around more to people than a shy cat will, but when it comes to somebody outside that immediate pack, they may be a little shy with that person too. So,
Yeah. And then you know at the shelter if they get along with other cats or not.
Yeah, you know,
And that's an important thing because it's good to have two cats if you're going to have. They could keep each other company.
Yeah, they keep each other company. But sometimes I've seen two cats
get along.
rely on each other too much. You know what I mean? And then, you know, sometimes it may pay to break up those cats for at least a week. So they, you know, they could bond with the humans in their life a little bit too. Because sometimes if they're, you know, they're raised with another cat, the other cat becomes the buddy, not the human. So if you
I see what you mean,
seed with the human and separate the other cat, same thing with the dogs, by the way. They will become a little bit more bonding with the human. Yeah.
Maybe it's better, like they usually like to adopt like brothers or sisters or in the family, but maybe it's better to get them at different places, so, right? You think, or no?
No, not necessarily.
That's okay too?
I think it's all right because if you have a brother and sister, we'll say from a litter, and they were brought up together, they've been together, and the whole thing goes back to being sociable, how they were raised to begin with.
Right.
You know, so if we're talking sociable cats, no problem. If we're talking cats that are kind of unsocialized a little bit, and you know, then you know you've got a problem to begin with right off the bat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I imagine they would grieve terrible if they were just one was taken, the other one wasn't.
They would feel it, sure,
Yeah.
sure, yeah.
Well, then that's very good information for everyone what they want to adopt. That's really good information. Things I didn't know about puppy mills and breeders and good. Yeah.
This is more from our vent, but do you see some of the animals actually take on like the illnesses of the owners that they're? You know, we see that a lot in our work where you know this dog is experiencing kidney failure and the owner's having kidney problems.
I've never seen that.
And you know, they empathetically take on some stuff that
they
their owners
definitely,
have.
you know, they're part of the pack.
Yeah.
And being as part of the pack, you know, most people who've had dogs will tell you this, you know, when they came home and they had a bad day at work and they start yelling and screaming, the dog's like, whoa, you know. So they're, you know, they're very receptive to their humans' feelings, basically, in that respect. They know when, you know, they know when certain things aren't
that's
right.
what I think animals are so empathetic, and I think
you know,
that they do. Because normally, I mean, you don't see a lot of, you don't hear about, you know, dogs that in other countries even, or in the wild that have had cancer, and now our pets are having cancer. And
yeah, I guess
is that more environmental, or
that's
is that
a whole other topic, I guess. But a lot of it probably. Some people say over-vaccination is causing it. Some people say the dog foods with a lot of different things that obviously
really
are in the wild are causing that. And I guess you could say that about our own, you know, our own systems too. You know.
Right, our food and their food both.
Yeah. Exactly.
There are a lot of junky pet food out there. A lot of junky stuff. All the animal byproducts, which is organs.
Yeah.
I even read where if like a poor cow that was slaughtered or something had a tumor or something, they would grind that right up in there, cancer and whatever.
Yeah.
It's just. It doesn't really pay. I know it's more money to get the better food, but it really pays if you love your animal.
It absolutely does, because the animal will be healthier. You'll have less feces to deal with, and you know, it's just a healthier thing. Of course, to the unsuspecting person, they make any type of pet food look like it's the best in the world, whether it's the cheapest brand or the most expensive brand. So you got to know, you know, somewhat what to look for as well. You know.
There's a lot of information online for people that would really want to know. You can find out most anything that you want online. And then, of course, there's holistic veterinarians who, like Dr. Tobin, who we've had on our show, who has wonderful information about how to feed the animals, you know.
Yeah.
Spiritually, we have both read and know and heard that animals will sometimes take an illness from their owner, and they will pass on from the illness, and the owner will be saved, and so forth. And so I've read a lot of stories about that. You were talking something about that before,
I was just wondering if, you know, you see, well, you know, I think that, you know, sometimes people actually look like their dogs, or the dogs look like their people, and it's like there's such a connection there. It's amazing.
There's certainly,
really
certain characteristics of a high energy person. The dog will usually become more high energy, and low energy, the dog will usually become more low. They do take on.
They take it on.
Yeah, absolutely. There's certainly no doubt about that. I mean,
to me, I think animals are little angels. I really do. They're just so. I don't know, they're so wonderful, they're so loving, they just, okay, a cat is independent, but cats also, my cat will come when you call him, and he loves to give me love and nuzzle and my neck and, you know, and play.
On
and
their terms.
Yeah, they're so loving. And the dogs, of course, are more loving. Dog is, love me, love me, love me, love me, love me, love me. They're so adorable and play and stuff. Yeah. But they're just wonderful. And you yell at the dog, you may get angry and he runs away, but if you call him, they come right back and give you love again. It's just, and the cats the same thing.
And,
they will do the same
and
thing.
You folks know that they've done a lot of studies that, you know, an animal, cat or a dog, can lower blood pressure. You know?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Your
People
blood
take them
pressure
into
will definitely lower
the
because
elderly homes.
they're sleeping, they're peaceful. It does, and they've done many studies on this to prove this beyond doubt that this is the case with most animals. Will lower somebody's blood pressure quite a bit.
Yes, it's just the petting of the.
And this is true with older people, maybe somebody who's lost their spouse as time goes on, or even somebody single. You know, who's maybe lost their spouse even more recently.
For other reasons, yeah, right, exactly.
So, so there's definitely some good physical things of having a pet too.
There is.
It may get somebody out to take a walk that's been living more of a low-key lifestyle. You know, they have to get out if they care about the animal enough. I've got to take my dog for a walk. You know, so it gets them walking, whereas maybe they would not go out for that walk, which is certainly a health benefit.
I've recommended. I know I had a client once, and I'm like, you have to get a cat. Like, he was alone. You know, I don't think he had the energy for a dog, but I'm like, just get a cat because you need to be able to learn, you know, how to connect with something again. And I'm hoping that he took my advice at some point. But you know, he just to touch something and to make that connection is so important.
Yeah, absolutely.
I kind of feel, and maybe you'll agree, both of you, that if you're considering an animal, if you get a dog, you have to realize that they need to be walked twice, 3 times a day. They need to go outside. They need the exercise. They shouldn't be left alone for 12 hours a day and not be able to go outside or anything like that. There's a big commitment when you have a dog, which is really good for families. But if somebody's working all kinds of hours, having a dog,
they may want to they may want to really, you know, and again, what we talked about before is they really have to see how this animal is going to fit in with their lifestyle.
And with the lifestyle.
You know, 12 hours is a long time. Now it depends on the dog to a certain degree, but generally I'd say it's probably too long.
It is.
You know, for them to, you know,
not only not being able to go outside, but be alone, be lonely.
Right, unless they have, you know, there is a lot of people who go beyond what we would consider to the extremes with their animals, which to me is not an extreme, but they'll have a doggy daycare. Or they'll have a pet walker come in.
Yeah, that's good.
So if that's the case,
to make the provisions, right?
Yes, then 12 hours is not extreme for a dog like that. But 12 hours for most dogs to be alone, it's fairly extreme.
And if you're going to do that, you need to maybe get 2 so they have each other for company. Because they do communicate with each other.
It could be worked
they help
out,
each other.
but it's something to consider, absolutely.
The same for cats now. The cats, if they're going to be left alone a long time, need to have somebody with them. You get the 2 cats, so they're not. But they're less trouble because you can leave food for them.
Right.
But too much dry food is not that good for an animal either, so there's other things to consider. But they should take in everything before they do it.
Absolutely.
What about kenneling your dog versus non-kenneling, like during the days while you're gone?
It depends on your situation. What I like to see myself is well, it depends on the age of the dog and everything. There's a lot of factors involved. But let's say you have a dog that's over a year old. If you have the situation to do it, a secure kennel in the backyard where the dog has plenty of room. It's secure. There's a lock on it. There's a dog house. And obviously the dog has adequate, food. And it's a lot of the problems we see is where flies. Flies are going to collect on a dog. So you need to get certain certain repellents like Advantix, which is very good. Advantix is very good because it repels mosquitoes, flies, ticks, fleas, You know, so you want to have that on a dog that's going to be outside for even 8 hours a day, we'll say. But at least the dog may get some exercise that way, having a kennel. It costs money to put a proper kennel up in the yard, you know.
And what about
Yeah, but-
indoors? Just the kennel, the crates, crating them.
The crating is necessary for certain dogs. Certain dogs that not everybody has access to.
We grew up, we never crated our dogs.
Yeah.
Now it's
Well,
everybody's.
it's
you know,
done. It's
and
done.
I can see that it makes them more comfortable in a sense.
Well,
for
it's a
most
den
dogs.
effect. A den effect. A kennel is basically a den effect, especially if you
Okay,
make a
yep.
little kennel out of it, like putting even a blanket over the cage type, or the plastic ones are kind of more enclosed. So it's a den effect, and dogs are den-dwelling creatures, basically. You know. So that's comfortable for them in that respect. A lot of times with a younger dog, it's used for housebreaking. I don't think you need a kennel if your dog is, you know, housebroken. If it's good in the house, then it shouldn't be kenneled,
No.
in my opinion. You want to, you know, partition off a room, that's fine. Most dogs aren't kenneled like that are good in the house. They stay in the
to
house
roam.
and they kind of just do their thing. If they're confined to one room, fine. If they're confined to the whole house, that's all right too. But you know.
But having a dog and chaining him out in the yard all
Well,
the time,
that's a different topic.
that
then.
is not.
That's a topic that you
That's
see
not a good
as
thing.
the dog is being used as a security device, or it's basically reached a point where it didn't have the proper training, so now
Yeah, they just want to get it outside.
Now it's outside on a chain in the backyard 24/7.
bark, and keep
here's
the
where
neighborhoods
here's where the barking
awake,
occurs. Here's where the animal is not cared for. Here's
Lonely.
just a very inhumane situation, which, by the way, is against the law in Connecticut to just
Good.
chain a dog out 24/7.
So you can report them,
Yeah.
people, if you see that happening.
Yeah, and then the dogs are susceptible to what we talked about, the flies, constant
Yes.
flies on the ears, which we see sometimes, which is, you know,
So
too bad.
sad.
And improper water, dirty water, not enough food, improper shelter, and again, these are some of the problems that you know you see as an animal control officer, and you see, and you know, it's just a bad situation for the dog, you know.
That's a shame. You gotta see some sad stories. I
Yeah,
know.
and it's nice to rescue dogs from that situation. The problem is sometimes these dogs have gone too far to really be sociable, because if they, let's say somebody got a dog as a puppy, didn't work out inside, so now it's relegated to the backyard, it doesn't get socialized that much with just the people who, you know, walk out there for 5 minutes a day to feed it.
Occasionally, yeah.
And it's very unsocialized, and it gets the junkyard dog mentality. It becomes very suspicious of new people in its life, and it gets off the chain, causes havoc in the neighborhood. This is a problem. It's a problem for society. It's a problem for the dog. So this is a very bad situation for dogs to be in, and it happens all too often, unfortunately.
Can you
where-
imagine the loneliness?
Yeah, you know, a dog's a pack animal. It wants to be with the family, not
Yeah,
stuck out
that's
on a
right,
chain in the
exactly.
backyard.
There again, you
Yeah.
can say to them,
Yeah.
if you come back as a dog, incarnate as a dog, would you like to live out and chained out in the backyard all
and
the
it's
time?
not going to.
Put yourself in their place.
yeah.
People have to put themselves in the
It's
animal's
generally
place.
not going to do that much protection-wise. Even some people think it will. So
No.
it makes no sense, but it's unfortunate that it does happen too often.
Yeah. A dog will bark just as much in the house to warn you as he will
Well,
outside.
the dog is certainly going to be a better deterrent or
In the
a better
house, in the
protection
house, yeah.
factor in the house than it is
No, it's-
outside on a
Exactly.
chain in the backyard. So,
Exactly.
But again, it gets back to maybe people have been raised like this, and this is the way they were raised, with a dog on a chain in the backyard,
Right, that's
and maybe they feel this is the best security way to do it, or maybe they just have no other alternative. So it's a bad situation.
Better to find a nice home for the dog than to do that. That's the best thing
Yep.
to do. If you
Yep.
have compassion, please do that.
I have a question regarding the greyhounds.
Yes, I'd like to
The
know about that.
greyhounds.
Yeah.
You found homes for them, right?
I did a greyhound video many years ago with Ellie Goldstein and Hamden. She used to be with a group called WAG. We adopt greyhounds. So I'm not an expert on greyhounds, but you know, there's
But do
plenty
you
available.
see them become? I mean, are they
There's
still
plenty
racing
yes.
them?
Well,
Is
they
it
come off the
still
track.
Okay.
And they can't take them off the track for as little as being 0.2 of a second too slow. You know,
Wow.
so in years past they used to really euthanize a lot of them. Now they're becoming more and more people are adopting them as pets.
Yeah.
I had a friend who was very involved, and you know they're very specific breed too. They're trained to run, and you know, you can't just keep them
Yeah,
in
they
this
run-
little
and they're
confined
quick.
area. I mean, you need to
They're quick.
take them
Yeah.
out and
Yeah.
really give them their
Yeah,
exercise.
they need exercise, they need walks. They're adaptable to a certain degree, but again, you know, just like the dog who's chained out in the backyard all its life, it needs to relearn certain behaviors. They've probably never walking up steps, they've never seen themselves in mirrors, certain noises they may be, you know,
They're very,
not
yeah,
susceptible
jumpy,
to.
yeah.
So, and that varies with the dog too, obviously. You know, but they're great dogs and they're great look, and you know, if you like that type of breed and that type of look, which a lot of people do, they're great
and
dogs.
I know that, you know, he especially adopted a lot of greyhounds from the tracks, and they were susceptible to cancers from all the injections of steroids and
Yeah,
whatnot.
yeah.
that
Well,
they
they're,
were-
you know, again, it is a purebred,
very-
and there's certain things, you know, that they're more prone to than
Yeah,
maybe other
it was such a
breeds.
shame.
Their skin is very thin, so
Thin,
they're
yeah.
susceptible to some cuts more so than you know, other breeds might be, and certain cancers and things like that. And coming off the track because of the exposure to so many dogs, there's certain conditions that they may have. But generally, most rescue groups will do
They're very gentle.
medical,
They are so gentle.
medical on the dogs, and they are a gentle breed, and they're usually one up around so many dogs are usually great with other dogs. So.
They say, and people that I know that have them say they love them. They make wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful pets. They're very loving and
They're very adaptable
Yeah.
too. You know, they're from the track to the couch, so to speak.
Yes,
Some of them,
yeah.
yeah. So, yeah.
What about the wild horses? What did you do with the wild horses?
Wild horses would be something I was interested in. And,
Yeah, tell us about
yeah,
that.
we did a video production on them about the wild horses which roam, you know, down in the south. The wild horses, they have to basically thin the herds out because they do multiply, and they make them available for adoption. They have different satellite adoption sites throughout the country where you can come view the horses and get them. Now, the Mustang's a very sturdy. It's called a Mustang. They're a very sturdy breed. They're not as big as, you know, your normal horses that me and you might see driving around, but they're a very sturdy breed. They need to be basically trained to have somebody ride them if that's what
Yeah,
you're going to do with
right.
them, and they are trainable. It's a process that's involved. You got to gain their trust and everything like that. It invokes things of the horse whisperer. Yeah, but it can be done.
Yes.
And I think they're great horses. They're very, very sure-footed, very sturdy, you know, horses.
So that's an effort that's being made to.
Oh, it's been going on for years.
Rather than-
And there's also burros there too. They also adopted burros. Burros are more from California and I believe Utah, where you know there's wild burros that get adopted as well.
What do they do with the burros that are adopted?
People have them as pack animals. You could get on a burro and ride it around. It's got the big ears
Yeah.
and the noise. Some people like to hear that noise, that honking noise.
SUV and
know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So to a lesser degree, they do adopt the burros out, but the wild horses are a big thing, and they do need to thin the herds continually. So a lot of people like them, and if you're interested in that, you could probably call up the Bureau of Land Management, and they'd probably go to their website, and they would be able to tell you when they're going to do it's called a satellite adoption. They have them probably upstate New York once a year, maybe in New Hampshire and Virginia definitely. You go, you look, you buy a horse, take it home with you.
Wow.
Yeah.
There are people who have set up for that. Now, they don't abandon the horses. I mean, the people who
you know,
do they? What, do
Have
they?
you seen that?
You always get good adopters and bad adopters.
Really?
Of course, you know.
What does a bad adopter do?
A bad adopter is going to basically, you know, keep the horse for a while and do something negative with it, exploit it in a negative commercial way, maybe sell it, you know, who knows. Same thing, somebody going to come into an animal shelter. I mean, you know, you do animal shelters, most of them, some do a better job than others, but you know, once that animal is adopted, you don't know what's going to happen with the animal. You hope the decisions you made and the person you gave it to is going to do right by it. But there's obviously in life there's some negative things that could be done. You know, I'd
With
like
a
to
horse,
think
what would they do? Sell it to a...
they could sell it for horse meat, I would imagine. I'm sure it's done. I hate to say it, you know. I wouldn't want to gloss that over. I'm sure it's done.
Yeah, I'm sure it
You
is.
know. So you know, you want to hope that and in many cases it obviously does. It ends up in a family situation. They like the horse, they use it, you know, they train it, they like riding it, they like, you know, the fact of the Mustangs. And I had many of those people in my videotape who, you know, adopted a Mustang and they trained it, and it's one of the best horses they ever had.
Oh, that's nice.
Too bad we can't do more screening on who's adopting, but you're just so anxious to find them homes. That,
Yeah, I mean, well, different groups do different screening to a different degree. You got to go with your gut, and you like to believe that you do the best job you can.
Yes.
And by the way, it goes the other way too. Sometimes you may think you're doing a great adoption, whether it be a greyhound, a wild horse, or a local shelter dog, and everything is right with the people, and they turn out to be terrible adopters, and the person who sometimes you think is not going to be great turns out to be the greatest. So you never know.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
never know.
They should have better screening, yeah. Do they get these horses for like the stables where, no, people board their horses at stables,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, they don't have horses there that they just can ride. Where is it that you can go and just ride a horse?
There's stables
There's
in the area.
different stables that have
And they do
that.
have them there? They keep them there and you just for riding?
Just for riding, sure.
Oh, they do have them?
Yeah.
So they probably get them from the wild, do you think?
No,
No, not
the
necessarily.
Mustangs are not.
And they're not really
They're
riding
sure-footed and they're great horses, but they're not generally considered to be a riding horse that most people would prefer. Yeah. You have to be a special person to adopt. I think to adopt a Mustang, to train it, and they do have foals, young baby horses that are obviously going to be easier to deal with
they're
than
right away
a
there,
horse that's been out on the range, for many, many years. They're going to be easier to train.
Well, we've got like a couple of minutes left,
Okay.
and you can probably, what would you like to say if you want to say one last thing to our audience, which is right there?
Oh, what would I like to say?
Yeah,
Well,
what
first
would
of
you
all, I'd like to thank you for having me on.
Oh,
Yeah,
we
you're
Thank
thank
you guys
you.
back there, and our camera guy here. I know it's it's a lot of work, and thanks a lot. It's just that if you're going to get an animal, be committed to the animal. You're going to have this animal for the rest of its life. You're responsible for it. Have enough compassion for the animal to do the right thing. And if you really can't make that commitment, then don't get an animal, whether it be a cat or a dog. If you do see animal abuse occurring, report it.
Yes.
Report it, and don't just think, well, I reported it one time and that's it, and I've done my job. Sometimes it may mean following up 2, 3, and 4 times. If you don't feel you're getting satisfaction by your initial response, then go one step level higher. That may be to the head of the police department, the mayor's office, somebody head up in the state, depending on the community you live in. You have to be persistent if you don't feel the right thing's being done by the animals. There's good people and there's bad people in certain jobs, and so you need to keep that in mind.
Right.
And again, your responsibility doesn't just end by making one telephone call.
Right. That's good advice.
Yes, very good
That's
advice.
very good advice.
Right,
It's
well,
just,
we're going to get your information up there so that people want to contact you.
okay, if you want to contact Bob, it's Bombace, B-O-M-B-A-C-E, and his phone number is 203-248-8426. For any information that you'd like for him, to help you with, or if you would like to adopt a dog from a shelter.
And we'll put our information up there so that you can contact us. You can email your questions for the show to healoutsidethebox@yahoo.com. For show schedules, visit our websites, www.rosemarylachance.com or www.entirebeing.com. And you can contact us by calling Rosemary at 203-627-7966 or Traci at 203-232-3405.
And if you'd like a copy of any of our shows, please visit one of our websites for more information and details, because you can purchase one, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to share with you our quote for this evening from the Book of Courage. And here we are. Be deeply grateful for the person who has been teaching us a hard lesson. It's not easy for a soul to come into this life and commit horrendous acts or crimes, so that we will wake up and learn our lessons.
That's right. Everything in life is a lesson. It's not a coincidence. It happens for a reason. Take care of the animals. It's our obligation to help the animals. Okay? Please take care of them, report them. Okay, thank you so much
Thank
for
you
coming.
very much.
Thank you.
very much for
Really
having me.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we'll be having you back because we're going to have many shows on this, on the animals in different kinds of ways, forum and panels and discussions. And we're going to have some people in the future that'll talk about the animal, the people who go undercover for factory farms. And
Yeah, it's could be a very big topic. There's
It
a lot
is
of
a big
different areas.
topic.
So.
okay. Well, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Good night.
Good night.
As you look out through the window to the world you have made, always know you are the vision. See the truth